In this video I motorsail from Adelaide to Launceston, and I have to be in Launceston by the 14th of December to fly back to Melbourne. After 2 weeks in Bali, I returned to Adelaide on the 20th of September and immediately set about anti-fouling, replacing the cutlass bearing and shaft anode. I also removed the mast to reseat the side stays on the spreaders and loosen the masthead internal sheave rollers. And new internet and VHF 10mm cables down the mast. I also purchased 2x100 amp hour lithium batteries to replace the worn out AGMs. So this is from the balcony of the Royal South Australian Cruising Squadron. I left Arsays about 9:15 AM on the 12th of October and arrived at anchor off Brighton about 1:15 PM same day. The day just happened to be the 100-year opening for the Brighton and Seacliff Yacht Club. After spending a few hours at Brighton, I left at 8 PM heading to Penneshaw Marina, arriving next day 7 AM. I motored all the way as there was very little wind. When walking up the hill from the marina, I was out of breath and got a dull ache in my lower left jaw. Little did I realise that it was going to present a problem over the next 2 months. I stayed at Penneshaw for 8 whole days and thoroughly enjoyed it. This is about 7 AM on Tuesday, the 22nd of October. Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, 22nd of October, 2019, 10 AM, and I'm motorsailing from Kangaroo Island to Robe, South Australia. It's about 140 miles. I left Hog Bay, Penneshaw last night about 7 PM. Went through the night and I should get to Robe 2-3 AM in the morning. So it's a very nice easterly breeze, 10 knots. And if I put my main up, it's too much weather helm for the self-steering. So I've just got the jib up and I've got the motor just ticking over 5 knots. I've had dolphins for the last couple of hours all around me. And I've got the line out for the last hour, but nothing yet. So I've just been lying down, snoozing, catching up on some sleep. This is the end of the 22nd of October as I head into the night towards Robe. This is the Robe waterfront. I arrived at Robe about 11 p.m. Tuesday and had to anchor outside the entrance due to the low tide. It was too shallow to get in. Around 4 a.m. all the cray boats came out. Luckily I was sufficiently far away from them. While in Robe I got hit by a 40-knot easterly side on, which pushed me into the pontoon, tipped me over slightly and bent my safety rails. I stayed 8 days at Robe. Well, good evening everyone. It's 4:20, Wednesday the 30th of October, and I'm heading from Robe to Portland. So I've been out about 3 hours, had a slight headwind which is south-southeast, that's now dropped out, and I'm expecting a easterly to northerly coming in very shortly. I think once the sun heads towards this horizon, the land breeze comes in. So I'm hoping to have a nice sail onto Portland, which I should get there around dusk tomorrow. So I've got the fishing line out, always hopeful. There's a little bit of seaweed around, and that normally what happens is the seaweed gets caught in the hook, comes to the surface, so you can then bring it in and get rid of it. There's a couple of places I could stop at, but I need to be working Friday, so I can't really take that time. And this Saturday, Sunday, it's going to be a rather stormy, so I thought I'd come down today. As I pan around in front of us, I've got a bit of the jib out, fixed to the base of the mast. Well, it's 3 o'clock. This is crazy. It's 20, 25, 27 and a half knots. And about another 300-400 metres I'm going to have to turn straight into the wind. It's going to be interesting. I've got 10 miles to go, so whether I can go into the wind or whether I tack to go up there is yet to be decided. But they don't build wind farms here for nothing. I spent 10 wonderful days at Portland tied up in the marina and bought a bottle of Timboon Christie's cut whiskey from a Sunday market. Also met Gary Kerr, maker of numerous very informative videos, and saw some people splicing wire. Good morning everyone. It is Sunday the 10th of November, just gone 10 a.m. and I'm on my way from Portland to Port Fairy up the river. So we've had a week of westerlies, anything from 20, 25 to 30 knots, and it quietened down last night, so the sea is still up a bit and it'll get better as the day goes on. So I've got 6 hours from Portland to Port Fairy, 5 knots, so hopefully I'll arrive around 3 p.m. I'm going a bit slower than 5 knots at present. I've Once again, I've got the engine on because there's very little wind. Showing 7 knots apparent, and I'm doing about 4.5. So I've had a rain squall go through, and there's probably a few more today to come. Well, it's just gone midday, Sunday. So I've got about 2.5 hours to go. I'm going along nicely. Reasonably rocky, as one would expect. And I'm just about to pass Lady Julia Percy Island with a very flat top. Not sure how long it is. A kilometre, maybe. And out there is Lady Julia Percy Island. And finally entering the Port Fairy river system. I was tied up at 3:30 p.m. at Port Fairy after 8 hours of motor and sailing. I stayed 6 days working and exercising. Oh, good morning everyone. So it's Saturday the 16th November and I left Port Fairy around about 8:15. So I've been out for an hour and I'm on my way to Warrnambool to pick up Scott. And then on to Apollo Bay. A bit of a gust came in then and the Fleming put me off course. So I'm guessing it's about a 2 metre sea and the wind is 14 knots, 15 knots apparent off my starboard stern. I'm doing anywhere between 4.5 and 6.5 knots, so it's just perfect. Bit of cloud around. There's also looks like a bit of sunshine coming. So with any luck we should get to Apollo Bay early hours of the morning, Sunday morning. So it's still Saturday, 16th November, and we're off Peterborough from airport ferry to Apollo Bay. Scott's on board. He's pretending to steer.
I am steering. In control.
So we've got a southwest wind, 15 knots, sometimes 20 knots. And a reasonable sea, so the sailing's pretty good. I managed to get some telephoto shots of the coast around the 12 Apostles area before going into nighttime and into Apollo Bay. We arrived at Apollo Bay 2 a.m. on the Sunday. 17.5 hours sailing, 85 nautical miles, and we only motored 4 hours. Good morning, everyone. Well, it's Saturday the 23rd of November. It's about 7:30 a.m. and I'm heading to the northwest corner of King Island. I left Apollo Bay this morning about 3:15 and there has been no wind, and it's just starting to come in now. So it's up to 12 knots. I've been running with the engine. I'll probably run a bit more until it gets to 15 and then I can turn it off. But the sailing's been good. There's about a 1.5 metre southwest swell. So everything is going along nicely. So it's now nearly 2 o'clock. The wind is gusting to 25, 26 still. So Fleming's still working, but I have to help it when it gets up over the 22 knot mark as I start rounding up. I arrived at Grassy same day, 9:35 p.m. on a public mooring. That was 18.25 hours sailing. I spent 2 weeks at King Island, including a lot of working and slow walking. I hired a car one day and drove to the north and south of the island, including a stop at the famous King Island Dairy, where I tasted all cheeses, Roaring Forties Blue being the best. This is the Cape Wickham Golf Links at the northwest corner of King Island. So this is Curry Harbour, west side of King Island. Looks like quite a difficult entrance to get in. So here we are at the southernmost point of King Island. The lighthouse up there, I'll go up there shortly. And here's the sign to prove it. Scheelite was mined on King Island in the early 1900s, the 1920s, 1940s, before it closed. Scheelite is a primary source of tungsten and used in fluoro lighting, X-ray detection and many other things, according to Wikipedia. Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday, the 8th of December. Just gone 6 a.m. and I am motor sailing between Grassy and Launceston. So I'm currently going past the 3 Hummock Island, which is over in the distance. And I left last night about 9:30 p.m. So I've crossed the rough part, which wasn't too bad in the end. We've had 2 weeks of gales up to 35 knots, and today is the first day that it's been calm. So I'm making the most of it. So I should get to Beauty Point, which is the beginning of the Tamar River. I don't know, maybe 9-10 o'clock tonight. So I'll tie up to a jetty somewhere in there and head up to Launceston in the morning on the high tide. Or should I say on the incoming tide. High tide about midday tomorrow. So it's about 5:45 Monday morning. And I've just left my mooring at Dalrymple Harbour. And I'm looking at the industrial side. I've got about another 20 miles to go, and it's 30 metres deep here. So a very, very deep river. And that is Batman Bridge. That is the whirlpools in the river turning Ophelia. I arrived at Launceston on the 9th of the 12th, 2019. I had a heart attack next day, walking uphill to a medical centre, where I was transported to the hospital and 1 stent inserted next day. After 4 days in hospital, friends from Penguin picked me up and took me to their place. Then I caught the ferry back to Melbourne on Saturday the 14th of December.